Evelyn had always been the responsible one, the one who held everything together while her family leaned on her. For years, she worked 2 jobs, saved every penny, and dreamed of the day she could finally have a home of her own. That dream became real when she bought a small but beautiful house on the hill, a place filled with light, quiet, and peace. For the first time in her life, she felt free. She could already imagine the mornings with coffee on the porch, the smell of fresh paint, and the silence that promised a new beginning. She had earned this moment through years of struggle and sacrifice, and she was determined to finally live life on her terms. But everything changed the day she opened the front door. Evelyn expected to find an empty waiting space, but instead, laughter echoed through the hallways. Her boxes had been moved. Her furniture was rearranged. Curtains she didn't buy hung from the windows, and the scent of perfume and food filled the air. For a moment, she thought she had walked into the wrong house. But then she heard a familiar voice that froze her in place. Surprise! Her mother stood in the living room, smiling as if this were a celebration. Beside her were Evelyn's 3 sisters, Sophie, Mia, and Clara, looking far too comfortable. Evelyn blinked, speechless, as her mother walked toward her, holding a cup of tea like it was any other day. Her mother's tone was cheerful, almost proud. "I gave each of your sisters one of the bedrooms. It'll be nice for all of us to live together again." The words hit Evelyn like a slap. "You what?" she asked, her voice shaking between disbelief and anger. Her mother frowned slightly, as if Evelyn was being dramatic. "Don't start, dear. You've got the master bedroom all to yourself. You should be happy. You have plenty of space. I just thought you wouldn't want to live alone." Evelyn couldn't believe what she was hearing. This was her house, her dream, and her mother had given away parts of it without even asking. Sophie stood near the stairs, pretending to adjust her hair. Mia scrolled through her phone, and Clara looked everywhere except at Evelyn. None of them said a word. None of them defended her. Evelyn felt heat rise in her chest. Her mother had always done this, made choices for her, taken control of her life, and wrapped it in the excuse of family. But this time was different. This was her house, her hard work. Yet somehow, she was standing in the middle of it, feeling like a guest. She looked at the decorations, the framed photos she didn't hang, the bright pink cushions that didn't match her taste, the sound of her sisters laughing from the hallway. Everything felt wrong. She wanted to scream, to throw them all out, but instead, she just stood there in silence. Her mother's smile didn't fade. It was the same calm, knowing expression that always told Evelyn she wouldn't win this argument. Later that evening, Evelyn sat on the porch steps, staring into the dark. The quiet outside was the only thing that felt like hers. Inside, her sisters unpacked as if they'd lived there forever. She heard Mia playing music, Sophie calling friends, and her mother giving orders about where to put the dishes. Every sound pressed down on her like a weight. She thought back to her childhood. Her mother had always favored the younger sisters. Evelyn was the responsible one, the one told to make sacrifices. When her father passed away, it was Evelyn who worked extra hours to keep things afloat. Her mother would say, "You're strong, Evelyn. You can handle it." And she did. But strength had its limits. Now, all that sacrifice had led to this moment where the one thing she bought for herself was taken over without permission. It wasn't just about the bedrooms. It was about control, respect, and freedom. Her mother hadn't asked because she never needed to. In her mother's eyes, Evelyn's life was still something she could manage. When her mother came outside later with 2 cups of tea, Evelyn didn't even look at her. "You're upset," her mother said softly, as if stating the obvious. "But trust me, this is for the best. Family should stay together. You'll see how nice it feels to have company." Evelyn's jaw tightened. I wanted to live alone, she said quietly. Her mother sighed. You'll change your mind. You always do. Evelyn didn't answer. She knew there was no point arguing. Her mother had already decided everything. But deep down, something inside Evelyn cracked open. She felt the anger rise slow, heavy, and sharp. For the first time, she didn't feel guilt for being angry. She felt justified. As the night grew colder, Evelyn stayed outside, letting the silence calm her. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. She knew now that nothing would change if she simply complained or begged. Her mother would never see her as an equal, never respect her choices, never ask permission. If she wanted her freedom, she would have to take it. She looked back at the glowing windows of her new house. Inside, her sisters moved about like they belonged there. Her mother sat on the couch, probably planning new ways to redecorate. Evelyn's fingers tightened around her cup. The anger in her chest slowly turned into something colder, more controlled. She whispered to herself, "Not this time." For years, Evelyn had been taught to forgive, to keep peace, to swallow her pain for the sake of family. But as she sat under the quiet night sky, she realized that being kind had only made her invisible. She had given, and they had taken until there was nothing left. This time she would take back what was hers, but not with shouting or fighting. She would do it in a way they'd never see coming. When she finally went back inside, she found her mother still awake. "You'll feel better in the morning," her mother said, smiling gently. "You'll see I was right." Evelyn met her gaze and smiled faintly. "Maybe," she said. Her mother took that as agreement and went to bed satisfied. But Evelyn's mind was already working. Every detail mattered now: the bills, the documents, the ownership papers. Her mother might think she was still in control, but Evelyn knew something her mother didn't. Every mistake they made, every careless act, would become part of her plan. That night, as her sisters slept in the bedrooms that weren't theirs, Evelyn made a promise to herself. She wouldn't yell. She wouldn't cry. She would wait, quietly, patiently, until the time was right. And when that moment came, she would make them all realize what it felt like to lose something you thought you owned. It wasn't about revenge for the house anymore. It was about reclaiming herself. The next morning, her mother greeted her with cheer, asking if she wanted breakfast. Evelyn smiled, calm and composed, and said, "Of course." On the outside, she looked peaceful. But inside, the quiet storm had already begun. Her mother's decision had taken away her peace, but it had also given her something powerful, a reason to fight back. And Evelyn, the daughter who had always obeyed, was finally ready to stop being the quiet one. As the sun rose behind the hills, she felt the weight of betrayal turn into determination. She looked at her stolen home and thought, "You think it's yours now? But soon, you'll remember whose name is on the deed." From that moment on, Evelyn's smile was no longer the smile of a daughter trying to please. It was the calm, patient smile of someone who had already chosen her path. The house was no longer just a home. It was a battlefield, and Evelyn had just taken her first step toward winning it back. Evelyn changed overnight. The morning after her mother and sisters moved in, she smiled as if nothing had happened. Her calmness fooled everyone. Her mother believed she had accepted the situation, and her sisters carried on with their usual carelessness. But deep inside, Evelyn's patience had turned into quiet determination. She had no intention of letting them stay. She wouldn't shout or argue. She would simply take back what was hers, slowly, carefully, and without warning. The house no longer felt like a home. It felt like a stage where everyone played their part. Sophie left her clothes lying around. Mia played loud music, and Clara treated the living room like her personal office. Her mother gave orders as though she owned the place, changing decorations, replacing Evelyn's furniture, and calling family dinners without asking. Every corner of the house carried their voices, their laughter, their presence. Evelyn, the one who paid for it all, had become invisible in her own home. But Evelyn was no longer the helpless daughter they remembered. She learned to hide her thoughts behind a polite smile. She cleaned quietly, made breakfast, and nodded to every suggestion her mother made. It wasn't submission, it was strategy. The more they believed she was harmless, the easier her plan would be to carry out. At night, when the house finally fell silent, Evelyn sat by her desk and worked. She pulled out the papers, house ownership documents, bills, bank statements. Every account was in her name. Every legal right belonged to her. Her mother's arrogance came from years of assuming Evelyn would never stand up for herself. That mistake would cost her dearly. Evelyn started making small changes that went unnoticed. First, she transferred all utility bills to her personal email and switched payment methods to her private account. Then she spoke to her lawyer, pretending she wanted to register her mother and sisters as tenants for insurance purposes. What her mother signed later wasn't a harmless form. It was a rental agreement that made Evelyn the landlord. The moment she signed, her family unknowingly gave Evelyn full control. Weeks passed, and the tension in the house grew heavier. Mia complained about the Wi-Fi being slow. Sophie argued about closet space, and Clara started bringing friends without warning. Every careless action made Evelyn's silence stronger. She wasn't angry anymore. She was focused. Her mother still tried to maintain control, acting like the queen of the house. "Evelyn," she said one evening, "I'm thinking of changing the kitchen color. The beige is so dull. Don't you think blue would be better?" Evelyn smiled faintly. "If that makes you happy, Mom." Her mother mistook the tone for agreement. She didn't realize Evelyn had already spoken to the bank that morning to ensure no one could make financial decisions without her permission. Every yes Evelyn said came with invisible conditions. Every polite nod hid a quiet victory. One afternoon, while Sophie and Mia were arguing about bathroom schedules, Evelyn walked through the house, watching. The living room was filled with clutter, clothes, and noise. She stood there for a long moment, her calm expression hiding the deep hurt she felt. Everything she had built, the life she dreamed of, was being trampled by people who never valued her effort. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, staring out at the dark city lights. Her mind went back to the years when her mother controlled everything. Where she went, what job she took, even who she spoke to. Every decision had been made for her own good. She had accepted it for years, believing it was love. But now she saw the truth. It was never love, it was power. Her mother didn't want her to grow independent because that would mean losing control. Evelyn finally whispered to herself, "She's not taking this from me again." The next morning, she started keeping records. Every broken item, every damaged wall, every mess her sisters made, she took photos and notes. It wasn't about revenge out of spite. It was about building evidence. She knew that one day her family would accuse her of being ungrateful or cruel. When that day came, she would have proof. Still, she played her role perfectly. She cooked dinner, smiled at jokes, and even helped Mia set up a workspace. Her mother was delighted. "I knew you'd come around," she said proudly one evening. "Yes, Mom," Evelyn replied, hiding her amusement. "You always know best." Behind that calm voice, Evelyn's plan was unfolding faster than anyone realized. Within a month, she had legally secured every right to the property and converted the family's stay into an official rental agreement. The only thing left was timing. One evening, Evelyn overheard her sisters whispering in the kitchen. "I don't know why Mom thinks this is okay," Clara said. "It's Evelyn's house. I feel weird. Don't be dramatic, Mia replied. Mum said she gave us rooms because Evelyn didn't need all that space. Besides, she doesn't seem to mind. Sophie added, Yeah, she's too quiet. She's fine with it. Evelyn smiled from the hallway. They had no idea. The silence they mistook for peace was the calm before their eviction. Her mother, however, began noticing small things she couldn't explain. Letters addressed only to Evelyn arrived more frequently. Official envelopes with legal seals. When she asked about them, Evelyn simply said, Just routine paperwork. Her mother didn't question further, confident that she still held control. Then one day her mother went too far. She hosted a family gathering without asking Evelyn's permission. She invited relatives, filled the house with people, and proudly showed them her daughter's home. Evelyn stood quietly as her mother bragged about how she had arranged everything, the furniture, the rooms, even the garden. Everyone congratulated her as if she owned the place. Evelyn smiled politely, but inside, something shifted. That was the final push she needed. That night, when everyone left, Evelyn sat across from her mother at the dining table. The laughter was gone. Only silence filled the air. Her mother didn't notice the cold look in Evelyn's eyes. Mom, Evelyn said softly, you really like this house, don't you? Her mother smiled. Of course. It feels like ours. Evelyn nodded slowly. That's good to know. After that, her plan accelerated. Over the next few days, she gathered every final piece of documentation. Her lawyer prepared the eviction notice professional, emotionless, legal. Everything was ready. Evelyn just had to decide when to deliver it. Her sisters remained oblivious. Mia continued blasting music. Sophie borrowed her clothes without asking, and Clara filled the fridge with food Evelyn didn't like. Her mother still acted as though the house belonged to her. But Evelyn didn't mind anymore. The end was near. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hill, Evelyn walked through the rooms one last time. Each bedroom carried traces of her sisters' lives: messy beds, perfume bottles, half-open drawers. She paused outside her mother's door, hearing her humming softly. For a brief moment, Evelyn felt something familiar, a trace of love mixed with sadness. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. She whispered to herself, You taught me how to survive, Mom. But now, I'll teach you that I can stand on my own. The storm inside her had become still, not gone, just focused. She no longer wanted to yell or seek pity. She only wanted balance. Her mother had crossed a line too many times, and now Evelyn would draw her own. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen where her mother was making tea. We need to talk, Evelyn said calmly. Her mother didn't know that the letter Evelyn held in her hand would change everything. Part 2 of Evelyn's story wasn't about anger anymore. It was about control, patience, and quiet power. The woman who once let everyone make decisions for her had learned to make one for herself. And as she stood there, holding the envelope, she knew exactly how this would end. She didn't need revenge through shouting or cruelty. Her revenge would come in silence, sealed in a letter that would remind them all this house, this peace, this life belonged to her alone. Sunday morning came quietly, the kind of morning Evelyn used to dream of before her house stopped feeling like home. The air was still, the sunlight soft through the curtains, but inside her, a storm waited. She sat at the dining table with an envelope in her hands, her name signed at the bottom in steady ink. It wasn't a letter, it was an eviction notice. Every word on it was a boundary she should have drawn years ago. For weeks, she had planned this moment carefully. Every signature, every document, every quiet smile had led here. Her mother entered the kitchen humming, holding a tray of tea. When she saw the papers, her smile faded. "What's that?" she asked, or Evelyn didn't look up. "It's time you and my sisters moved out," she said simply. Her mother's voice trembled. "You can't be serious." "I am," Evelyn said, her tone calm but firm. "This is my house. You didn't ask to move in, and I didn't agree to share it. You've had enough time to settle your things. I want you all out by the end of the month." For a moment, silence filled the kitchen. The ticking clock sounded louder than ever. Then her mother's voice turned sharp. "After everything I've done for you, how ungrateful can you be?" Evelyn looked straight at her. "You didn't do this for me. You did this because you can't stand not being in control. You've made every decision in my life, and I let you. But not anymore." The words hung in the air like a final verdict. Her sisters soon appeared, their sleepy faces turning pale when they saw the letter. Sophie asked, "What's going on?" "Mom's housewarming is over," Evelyn said quietly. Mia's jaw dropped. "You're kicking us out. You can't do that." "I can," Evelyn said, sliding the papers across the table. "You're all listed as tenants. That means I can legally ask you to leave. It's all signed by you." Her mother snatched the paper and scanned it, realizing what Evelyn had done. Her expression hardened. "You tricked me," she whispered. Evelyn didn't flinch. "You never asked permission when you gave my rooms away. So yes, I protected myself." The room filled with tension. Her sisters started arguing, but Evelyn stayed quiet. For the first time, she didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. The power that her mother had held for so long now belonged to her. Still, as she watched their faces shift from anger to disbelief, something inside her ached. She hadn't wanted it to end this way, but there was no other choice. Her mother's eyes softened suddenly, switching from anger to guilt. "Evelyn," she said gently, "you're overreacting. We're family. We can make this work." Evelyn shook her head. "Family shouldn't mean losing yourself." Her mother stood there, speechless. She wasn't used to losing control. Evelyn could see it in her eyes. The confusion, the pride, the fear. After a long pause, Evelyn said quietly, "You have 3 weeks. I'll help you find a place if you need it." That kindness surprised even her. Part of her still loved them, no matter how deeply they had hurt her. But she also knew love didn't mean surrender. The next few days were tense. Her sisters avoided her, whispering when she entered the room. Her mother stopped speaking to her altogether. The house that once felt crowded now felt cold. Evelyn kept herself busy, cleaning, organizing, preparing for their departure. Each box they packed felt like a small victory, but it also carried a sting of sadness. She wasn't just losing her family. She was losing what little connection she had left with them. On the final morning before they left, her mother came to her room. Her eyes were tired, her voice softer than Evelyn had heard in years. "You really want us gone?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "I need peace, Mom. I need space to live my life." Her mother looked around the room. The soft colors, the framed photos of Evelyn's past, and sighed. "You remind me of your father," she said quietly. "He was stubborn too." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." Her mother hesitated, as if she wanted to say something more, but then turned and walked away. For a brief moment, Evelyn almost called her back, but she didn't. She knew if she did, everything she'd fought for would crumble again. The door finally closed behind them that evening. Evelyn stood in the silence she had dreamed of. The house was hers again completely, finally, legally. No noise, no arguments, no orders. Just quiet. She walked through each empty room. Sophie's perfume still lingered in the air. Mia's posters left faint marks on the walls. Clara's laughter seemed to echo faintly, like a ghost of the past. Every memory hurt, but it also reminded her of why she had done it. This wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about freedom. For the first few days, she enjoyed the silence. She slept better, cooked for herself, read by the window, and felt in control for the first time in years. But as the weeks passed, a strange emptiness began to grow inside her. The quiet she once longed for now felt heavy. Every sound, the creak of the floor, the hum of the fridge felt louder than it should. One night, she sat by the window, staring at the lights of the city below. The house felt too big, too quiet. Her thoughts wandered to her mother and sisters. Were they angry? Were they okay? Did they hate her now? The revenge that once filled her with power now left her hollow. She had won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Clara. "We found an apartment. It's small, but it's ours. Hope you're okay." Evelyn read the message twice, her heart heavy but calm. She typed back, "I'm glad. Take care of Mom." Then she set the phone down, tears quietly filling her eyes. The next morning, she did something she never thought she would. She called her mother. When her mother answered, the silence on the line was thick. Evelyn spoke first. "I just wanted to make sure you're all right." Her mother's voice was tired but calm. "We're fine. The girls are adjusting. Maybe we both went too far." Evelyn swallowed hard. "Maybe we did." There was a long pause. Then her mother said softly, "You did what you had to do. I may not like it, but I understand." That single sentence broke the tension that had sat between them for years. Evelyn didn't expect forgiveness, but she felt something shift, a small opening, a chance to heal. After the call, she walked through her house again. This time, it didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. She realized she didn't need to choose between love and boundaries. She could have both, she just had to protect them differently. As the evening sun filled the rooms with golden light, Evelyn stood in the doorway and whispered, "This house is mine. But my peace doesn't have to mean being alone." The story of her revenge wasn't about destroying anyone. It was about finding herself again after years of being overshadowed. She had learned that standing up for yourself doesn't have to come with cruelty. It can come with calm strength. Evelyn cooked dinner for one, lit a candle, and sat by the window. The world outside moved on, and for the first time, she felt she could too. She had taken back her home, her freedom, and her voice. The price was high: loneliness, guilt, distance, but the reward was clarity. She finally understood that revenge wasn't about making others hurt. It was about refusing to let them hurt you anymore. Evelyn leaned back in her chair and smiled softly. Her story wasn't about loss. It was about liberation. She didn't need anyone's permission to live anymore. She had already given herself that right. And in that quiet, with the city lights flickering in the distance, Evelyn whispered a final truth she had learned the hard way. Peace isn't given. It's claimed.